tuned into The Cracked Nation on KOCC Eagle Broadcasting with your hosts, Caleb Henry and Tyler Robbins. Welcome to The Cracked Nation. I'm Caleb Henry, and Tyler Robbins will be joining me soon. He was running a little late. So I'm going to go ahead and start off by saying thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. You can follow us on Twitter at TheCrackedNation and at TheCrackedNation. Tweet in during the show and we'll get your comments on the air if you feel like it. If not, then don't worry about it. So we're going to have our first top 10 today. And so I'm going to go over briefly what the show is going to be about. The show does go till 10 o'clock tonight, so it's going to be an hour and a half long. We're going to do top 10 of 2012. It's the top 10 movies of 2012. And we kind of did this last year around Oscar season. But now that I've seen more of the movies and I've had a chance to let them all soak in a little bit, I think it's good to go back and do another re-top 10 because movies have definitely changed from what they originally were. Let's go start off with our movie recommendations of the week. Recommendation for theaters. I've seen one movie in theaters in the last 3 weeks, and I went and saw Insidious Chapter 2 the other day. Let me start off by saying I hate scary movies. Can't stand them. Don't like them at all, but I really, really enjoyed Insidious Chapter 2. I have not seen the first one, so maybe that's why I liked it. It wasn't that scary, but it was really well done, and it was really clever and unique. The acting was solid, which is weird to say for a horror movie because, acting's never really a strong suit, but I felt like the acting was solid in this movie. You cared about the characters, and you cared about what happened. Really solid movie all around. So I'd definitely say go check out Insidious Chapter 2 if you can stand movies in theaters. Scary movies in theaters. If not, then maybe wait for that one. And then recommendation for rental of the week. Since Tyler's not here, I'm going to go ahead and take his spot. I recently watched Now You See Me again. I saw it in theaters last year, but rewatched it this year. It was just as good as it was. It wasn't quite as good because, once you learn the twists and stuff of a movie, the movie's just not as intriguing, but it was still very good. I really liked it, and I highly recommend it. So we are not going to have a soundtrack of the week this week. We'll probably start those on Sundays. It's been a little hectic starting with school and everything and getting our schedules working, but we feel like we've kind of got it going now, and so we'll start a soundtrack of the week probably on Sunday for that next week. And then a little bit more news. I'm kind of trying to burn a little time here until Tyler gets here as well, so we can start our list at the same time. Breaking Bad is down to its last 2 episodes of the whole series. This is big news because Breaking Bad, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, you can have a different one, is the greatest show I have ever seen on television. In terms of quality, it is unmatched, and in terms of how much I enjoy watching it, it is unmatched. The only other one that would get close would be Game of Thrones. And in terms of, and they're so different. One's an HBO special, one is not an HBO special. So there's a big difference. Highly recommend Breaking Bad. Last 2 episodes. Do not let people spoil this for you. If they spoil Breaking Bad for you, punch them in the face and tell them I told you to do that, because it is a tragedy if that happens. So check out Breaking Bad. And Tyler just walked in the studio. Woo! So we are going to go ahead and start right in with our top 10.
All right.
I just went over our movie recommendations of the week, that we're not going to do any soundtracks until Sunday.
Okay.
We're going to start it then.
All right, that's fine.
And then also that this year's top 10, or last year's top 10, has changed so much for me than it did because we did it around Oscar time.
Yeah.
It's totally different now.
Really?
There's about 3 movies that weren't in it last year that are now, and they're in completely different orders. I don't think a single one is in the same order as it was.
Well, let's hear yours first, and I'll comment, and then we can do it the other way around.
Okay. I'm just going to do a couple, and then you can go a couple.
Well, I'd rather just go straight through.
Okay.
And you just go 10 and all the way down, and can we do that?
You got it.
All right.
And since we do have an hour and a half show, this is the day that we decided to do our top 10. Because it's a longer show, so we're definitely going to be diving into these movies pretty seriously. First one, and this one did not make my original list, but after thinking about it, and let me clarify, this list is strictly based off of quality. This is not my favorite movies of last year. because I have movies that I love that are not good movies. And so this is strictly, if I had to say which one should have, or which one was made the best for what it was,
Right.
this is my list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, at number 10, I have Wes Anderson's Moonrise Kingdom.
Okay.
Originally, it was not on my list, but after thinking about it, that is a perfect movie in all sense of that word.
Yeah, I'm really surprised they didn't make your list last year. I mean, you were singing the praises of that movie, and I still haven't gotten a chance to see it myself. And
Yeah.
it hasn't been anywhere. It's not like you walk into Walmart and they have the big posters going, buy it now on Blu-ray, Moonrise Kingdom. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those movies you kind of have to look for it to find it.
It's a Wes Anderson movie.
Exactly.
If you're not a fan of the Criterion Collection, then you probably don't even know who Wes Anderson is.
Yeah.
The guy is like Criterion master, and for people that don't know what the Criterion list is, that makes no sense. It's just a special list of movies. So I loved Moonrise Kingdom. I feel like it's one of his best. It's not my favorite of all his, but in terms of quality, it's probably his. You could argue and say it's his best one.
Yeah.
You could say it's better than Royal Tenenbaums or better than Rushmore. I prefer those two more than Moonrise Kingdom, but
Right.
solid movie. Can't say too much more about it, but the next one on my list, this is one that I watched a week ago, okay? Never in my life would I have thought I would put this movie on here.
Okay.
Sinister.
Okay.
Have you seen Sinister?
Yeah.
Dude, that movie was so good.
Yeah.
I felt like this is what a horror movie should be.
Yeah.
A movie that takes you, and I was so enthralled that, and I, like I said a minute ago, because I mentioned earlier that Insidious 2, Chapter 2, I went and saw that in theaters. That was my recommendation of the week.
Okay. So that was good then.
It was really good. It wasn't that scary. But I mentioned that I hated horror movies.
Yeah.
But I've watched 3 horror movies in the last week. It's just kind of a thing we went through here at school. But Sinister, when I watched it, I could not look away from the screen. Like, most scary movies, I have my hand in front of my eyes. Like, I'm a baby when it comes to scary movies. I hate them. But Sinister had me gripped to that screen so much that no matter what happened, I could not look away. And I
Right.
just had to know what happened next. And it was just, it magnificently went together from beginning to end. It was perfect. It looped back around just flawlessly. And I loved the movie. I never thought I would put a horror movie in my top 10 of a year
Yeah.
for best movie. And
What-
this is quality-wise.
Right. There's another movie that I expect will be in your top 10 later that's sort of horror-esque, and
Yeah.
we'll get to that.
That is definitely true. So Sinister, highly recommend it. Now, it's hardcore in terms of not necessarily as much scary as much as almost like more of a spiritual battle, but not spiritual. It's like this other battle that a normal scary movie, you jump, you scare, somebody jumps around a corner, you'll scare you, but this will make you think all night long about what you just watched.
Okay.
And about everything about the movie and everything that went into it. So Sinister is at number 9. Moonrise Kingdom was at number 10. Number 8, and this
Alright.
is one spot up or down from what it was last year, is 7 Psychopaths.
Okay.
I saw it again. I think it holds up just as good as it did the first time I saw it.
Okay.
The screenplay, I feel like it got robbed that it was not nominated for an Oscar. I mean, that was a perfect screenplay. Anytime you have a movie inside of a movie, which is what they did. He's writing a
Right.
screenplay. I love those movies. That's why I loved Super 8. The kids are making a movie inside this movie. Yeah, the movie had issues, but I love that thought. And that is why Hugo was my favorite movie 2 years ago. And
Okay.
I think it should have won Best Picture.
Okay.
Same reason, and so 7 Psychopaths, he's writing a screenplay. It's not going well, and I really loved the chemistry between all the characters. Christopher Walken, of course. If I could do a Walken impression, I would try. But you do not want me to try that.
You can't do a Christopher Walken impression?
No, I mean, I can't do it.
No, you just proved that on air.
Exactly, it's horrible. Yeah, don't ever ask me to do impressions again. So, Christopher Walken, loved him in the movie. I felt like the movie, that was the only Oscar I think it should have been nominated for, but it should have been nominated for Best Screenplay.
Yeah.
Or even maybe editing, but screenplay is where I was like, man, this is a complex script. It's awesome. So I loved Seven Psychopaths. On my list of favorite movies, it's probably in the top 5, maybe top 4. So there's definitely a difference there. Okay, number 7. Number 7 is a movie that you'd wanted me to see for a long time, Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't watch it last year, and I finally got around to watching it.
Yep.
Flight with Denzel Washington. Is this the one you were talking about?
Yes.
Horror-esque?
Well, no.
Okay.
Can I risk spoiling it?
No, we'll wait.
Okay. I'll tell you what it is if you get through your list and you haven't covered it yet.
Deal.
Because there was a movie that you talked about all the time last year that was kind of sort of horror genre, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Well, looking at the ones I have left on my list, I think I left it off.
Okay, you know the one I'm talking about?
I'm thinking you're talking about End of Watch.
Nope.
Okay, then maybe we'll get to it.
Okay.
We'll wait and get to that one. But Flight. Flight is my number 7 movie on here. I waited to see Flight. I don't know why. It was one of those movies I just didn't care to see. The trailer looked dumb. And I was like, yeah, Denzel's going to be good, of course. He's always good. But that's it. Then when I watched that movie, I feel like that might have been Denzel's best performance.
Mm-hmm.
It very well could have been. He portrayed an alcoholic like I've never seen in a movie before. You'll see a drunkard or something like that in a movie, but he was an all-out alcoholic through the whole movie. And that's not spoiling anything, people. It's kind of obvious. 10 minutes into the 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you get through a minute of the movie and you haven't figured that out, then you probably have no business going to movies.
Exactly. His portrayal of an alcoholic in this movie is scary good. It makes me wonder if he was drunk half the time. Like, that's how good he is in this movie. And unfortunately for him, he was up against Daniel Day-Lewis for Best Actor, or I think he might have won.
Yeah.
That's how good he was.
I think he would have won any other year. Daniel Day-Lewis, probably the best living actor in terms of overall technical skill.
Mm-hmm. I won't argue that at all.
Comes in and gives his opus magnum the exact same year that Denzel Washington has his best performance, arguably, in the last 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, it just sucks for Denzel.
Yeah.
Because, really, you look at, the year before, Denzel would have won. The year before that, Denzel would have won.
Mm-hmm.
The year before that, Denzel probably would have won. I mean, you're going through all of these Academy Awards. He just happened to have his greatest performance in the wrong year.
Yeah, and I was looking at this list. I wrote down, when I was going through best movies of the year, I just wrote down anything that I would consider for a great movie. I have over 20 on this list. Okay, 20. This year, I could put one movie that I've seen this year would I put on this list. Place Beyond the Pines. That's the only one.
You wouldn't put Elysium?
I would not put Elysium on this list of best movies of the last year.
And you still haven't seen the new Star Trek, have you?
No, I've seen the new Star Trek.
Into Darkness?
Yeah,
you have seen that?
That one would maybe make it.
See, I think that stands in with most of the summer movies from last year. I think that would be a very, very strong summer movie offering.
I would agree, but there were so many good Oscar time movies,
right? That
it just it completely took over everything.
Yeah,
I mean, it was just ridiculous. So, yeah, big list here, and Denzel, his performance in Flight made the movie. The movie itself, I really, really enjoyed. But without Denzel, I wouldn't have really enjoyed it.
Yeah, or without that caliber of acting.
Right, and that's the one thing I think that kept Flight from being nominated for Best Picture, is because it wasn't that solid of a movie without Denzel.
Right.
And it was still really good, though, because of and that sounds bad. It was still a great movie, but it wouldn't have had quite the impact it did without Denzel being the actor. John Goodman, great supporting actor. The other guy, I can't remember his name. Don Cheadle did really good. Solid all around. Love the movie. Okay, going on to number 6, and then we'll take a break and we'll come back for my last 5.
Okay.
Number 6, and this is one that I had up at number 1 or 2 last year.
All right.
Life of Pi.
Wow, how did it fall like that?
A second time watching it, man. Once I watched it again, not on the big screen in 3D, it really lost a lot of its punch.
Yeah, and that's not to say it's not good. It's still your number 6 movie for the year.
Exactly. Of a strong year. Really strong year. I mean, it's still a great movie, and in terms of favorite, it's still probably top 3. But in terms of quality, I feel like once you lose the 3D, which was perfect 3D, I mean, as good as we've ever had, and as good as special effects as we've ever had, once you lose that because you're not watching it on the big screen, it kind of loses a lot of its punch, because that's what the movie was mainly centered around.
Right.
Now, the acting performances, still solid. There were a few directing decisions that I would have changed. The ending, I definitely would have ended it differently.
Well, see, the part of the trap in that is, if you end it differently, and I thought the same thing when I watched it. I thought, not the most satisfying of endings, because, I don't know, you keep thinking that it's going to lead up to some big, or at least in my mind, without spoiling anything.
Right.
I thought throughout watching the movie, okay, this is really cool. It's leading up to something massive, some big revelation at the very end.
Right.
And it really didn't. I mean, it did in a way, but it was not what you were hoping for or looking for. And it was just almost like...
It was almost a letdown.
You were expecting a birthday cake, and instead you get sucker punched.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. I feel like it had so much potential. And it was the ending that I think people that read the book were like, yeah, that's the way it ends. And I think they were okay with that, but it was like, just a little bit. And there were a lot of movies last year that I felt like ended poorly. And that's one of them. So that's what I have at number 6. We're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with my number 5 through 1. You're listening to The Cracked Nation on KOCC Eagle Broadcasting. I'm Caleb Henry here with Tyler Robbins, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Dog goes woof, cat goes meow, bird goes tweet, and mouse goes squeak. Cow goes moo, frog goes croak, and the elephant goes toot. Ducks say quack, and fish go blub, and the seal goes ow, ow, ow. But there's one sound that no one knows. What does the fox say? Big blue eyes, pointy nose, chasing mice and digging holes. Tiny paws up the hill. Suddenly you're standing still. Your fur is red, so beautiful, like an angel in disguise. But if you meet a friendly horse, will you communicate by more? How will you speak to that horse? What does the fox say? What the fox say? What the fox say? What the fox say? What does the fox say? The secret of the fox, ancient mystery, somewhere deep in the woods. I know you're hiding. What is your sound? Will we ever know? Will always be a mystery. What do you say?
And we're back. This is the Cracked Nation. I'm Caleb Henry. I'm here with Tyler Robbins, and we've been talking top 10 movies of 2012. This is a top 10 Wednesday. Every Wednesday from 8:30 to 10 o'clock, we're going to do our top 10 list. They'll be different every week, hopefully. I mean, obviously, we're going to do a different top 10 list. I have not seen Tyler's list. He has not seen mine, so we're just kind of... Our reactions are real here because usually when we do a top 10 list, we work them out together, but I have no idea what he put on his top list from last year. And he has no idea what I have on the last 5 of mine. Quick recap. Number 10, I had Moonrise Kingdom. Number 9, I had Sinister. Number 8, I had 7 Psychopaths. Number 7, I had Flight. And number 6, I had Life of Pi. Which, some of those for me is really surprising. Sinister, for one. I would never have put that on there, but it is such a good movie. And then Life of Pi being at number 6. It was at like number 2 last year. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into my number 5 pick, and this will probably be the biggest surprise for you, Tyler.
Okay.
And remember, this is a list of quality, not favorite, because this would be my number 1 favorite.
Oh, okay. I already know what it is.
Django Unchained.
Yep.
I don't know how I can put it at the 4 spot, man.
Yeah.
Or the 5 spot. It's in the 5 spot. There are so many good movies. I can't state it enough how many good movies came out last year. That Django Unchained is my number 5 best movie of last year.
Right.
Although, I will say, in terms of Tarantino quality, it's definitely on the weaker end, I think. The more I think about it.
Yeah, in terms of just his overall writing skills, I mean, honestly, not to take anything away from Tarantino's body of work, because, I'm as big a fan of his as anyone.
Right.
Listening or looking at his filmography, this movie won Best Original Screenplay. The only other movie of his to win that, Pulp Fiction.
Right.
And that's not right. If any movie, I mean, to state it the way that the youth minister I worked under this summer did, Inglourious Illegitimate Sons, or either of the Kill Bill movies.
Right.
Heck, Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
Those were all better written, I feel
Than
like,
Django?
than Django.
And I would agree.
Django was an incredibly satisfying story. It was extremely well shot, which is all Tarantino movies. Soundtrack is unbelievable, which is all Tarantino movies. I mean, it's like Christmas for me when I hear that he's coming out with a new movie, because A, it's not very common, and B, when it comes out, you're going to get a fantastic movie. That being said, by his standards, which are incredibly, unfairly high,
right,
not one of his better works.
No, and it's one of my favorites of his.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was so much fun to watch, but there were definitely big problems with the movie.
Right, and you have to, that's, at least on the first watch through, though, you don't notice that.
No.
I own it on DVD,
okay.
And so I got a chance recently to rewatch it and go over it and criticize it. And, when I'm watching it, not for the plot, but when I'm watching it just to, kind of break it down and see, okay, where are the holes in this?
Right.
You start noticing things that, I've probably watched Pulp Fiction 8 times, 9 times. I have never noticed anything in that movie that made me like it less.
Right.
I watch it, every time it gets better.
Yeah. And that's what the great movies do.
Exactly. Django Unchained, I felt like, the first time you watch it, it's excellent. The second time you watch it, you're like, this is still pretty freaking good. But it's not airtight like I thought it was when I saw it in the theaters. And so that's personal opinion. That's an opinion that we share.
Right.
But, great movie. Most years would be probably at least in the top 3 or 4 movies. This year it makes number 5.
Right.
And, again, that's no insult to Tarantino. It's just, you can't have Pulp Fiction every time you release a movie.
Right.
Scorsese has tried, but even Scorsese has not had...
He's come out, and...
He's come out with some clunkers in between The Taxi Driver and The Raging Bull and The Goodfellas.
Right. I mean, he had Shutter Island, which, when you compare it to The Departed and Casino...
Or The Aviator.
Well, are you meaning comparing it to The Aviator?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was like, Aviator was excellent.
It was good, I'm saying...
But Shutter Island just didn't match up. And so even the best directors have those movies.
Yeah.
And I feel like Django's the Shutter Island for him. You know, it's still a great movie, and I love it. And it's number 5 on my list. But it wasn't quite as good as I originally thought it was.
Right.
So that was a little disappointing. Okay, moving on. Oh, little fact here. Did you know that Inglourious was nominated...
Illegitimate Sons.
Inglourious Illegitimate Sons was nominated for 9 Oscars. That's the most he's been nominated for any movie.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like...
Did you finally get around to watching it?
Not yet.
Oh, my word.
I know. I have watched the Kill Bills.
Okay.
Which
okay,
I had
good.
not gotten a chance to do last year. Over the summer, an opportunity availed itself. But, you know, I've watched almost all the way through his filmography. And, again, there are very few disappointments in there.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I would say probably the weakest movie he's come out with is Jackie Brown.
Right.
Which is still a very good movie.
Right, but it's widely considered not his best.
Right. After that...
Throw them all in a hat. And
Yeah.
leave Pulp Fiction at the top. And
Yeah,
throw them all in a hat.
maybe Django is second worst.
Yeah, or Kill Bill Volume 1.
Yeah.
I mean...
And Kill Bill Volume 1 even, I mean...
it was like one movie that literally cut the film in half. And they're like, okay, we're going to add credits to this half and that half and just make 2 movies. That's how it was made.
Yeah, but Kill Bill Volume 1, I felt like it was more about just having gratuitous amounts of violence and blood and gore.
Right.
I don't know. Upon watching that, it frustrated me a little bit because I was like, you know, he is better than this as a writer. And I understand what he's trying to do. He's trying to give homage to the old kung fu martial arts movies that came out with Bruce Lee and you know, Jackie Chan, those guys back in the day.
Right.
I understand what he's trying to do, but it's just a little bit disappointing to me. It's like, you know, you can do better than this.
Yeah, I agree.
And then part 2 was much more well written, I felt like.
Yes, the script in part 2 was great. And, I mean, we're getting a little off topic, but yeah, and I feel like sometimes he has glimpses of masterful writing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just doesn't quite match up. And I feel like Django was like Kill Bill Volume 1. But slightly better.
I would say better overall, better in writing. I don't know.
It's really weird because there's so much complexity in Kill Bill.
Right.
That Django doesn't really have complexity to the script.
Right. That's the thing.
So
on
it's a different kind of
rewatching it, you know, I've just come to expect with Tarantino movies, okay, there's going to be 50 new revelations for me that I never caught.
Right.
And there were maybe 1 or 2, but it's like, you know, by and large, what you see is what you get.
Yeah, the first time you watch Django, pretty much you got everything.
Yeah.
So that's why I bumped it down to number 5. I mean, that's still number 5, which is still really good.
Yeah.
Okay, number 4 is one of the movies that I feel like in 20 years will be looked back as the best of this year, without a doubt. Just the kind of movie it is, and that's Lincoln.
Yes.
I feel like even though it's number 4 on my list of best movie that came out last year, it's going to go down as a classic. It's a Spielberg movie.
Right.
Daniel Day-Lewis gave the greatest performance of our generation since I've been alive. Without
lead performance.
Lead performance, yeah.
I wouldn't say that he's better than the Joker by Heath Ledger.
No, I meant in terms of like overall. I mean, he won his 3rd Oscar with it.
Yeah.
So not necessarily the acting performance itself, but what came along with the acting performance was just so great.
Yes.
And so Daniel Day-Lewis kills it, wins the Oscar. Lincoln gets upset, doesn't win Best Picture.
Yeah,
that was big.
I was stunned.
I was glad personally.
Well, I was too. I didn't think that it deserved to win Best Picture in the sense that, I don't know, it was a great biopic of a small section of Lincoln's life.
Yeah.
It was nothing that we had never seen before.
Right.
You know, we have seen great biopics from great politicians or military leaders or actors or singers or what have you.
Right.
We've seen that all before. So it's not like there's much originality going on there. It's just a very, very well done piece. And if you're interested in history at all, or even if you're not, then you'll probably love Lincoln. But it's not very original.
No.
And that's kind of, for me, what separates it out from... I think it will go down as a great movie, but comparing it to some movies from last year, I would not put it as a great movie.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's one of those, like I mean, like I said, in 20 years, I think people will look back, and this will be the one that carries on the longest.
Yeah.
But as of right now, it's kind of like there were some really slow parts. I mean, which I don't mind a slow movie. I mean, I love There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
That's a slow movie.
Right.
But I don't know. It was still so good. Like, I really liked the movie, but there was something about it that kept me from putting it higher than number 4. But it was, I mean, great movie. Tommy Lee Jones gave a great performance. Day-Lewis, of course. Joseph Gordon-Levitt for what he was in it. And Sally Field, can't forget her. Great performance. So Lincoln is at my number 4 spot. Number 3, and this was one that I kind of debated flipping the two. I couldn't quite decide. And I think it's a movie that got kind of hosed at the box office, at the Oscars, because of the politicalness to it, and that's Zero Dark 30.
Okay.
I feel like Zero Dark 30, if it wouldn't have been received in such a negative light politically, it would have done better in the Oscars.
Yeah.
It only won 1 Oscar for Best Sound Editing.
Yeah,
And it tied with Skyfall. Are you kidding?
That was the stunner, more so than Lincoln, for me,
Yeah.
of the Academy Awards last year. The fact that, when it was coming out, people were saying this is going to be the movie that ties Return of the King for most Academy Award wins.
It was looking like it at first.
Yeah. If you don't know, the Lord of the Rings Return of the King won 11 Academy Awards.
Yeah.
So...
And it was getting perfect reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, the first 30 critics gave it 100. Like, it was 100% on Rotten Tomatoes through 30 critics. It was looking like a masterpiece. And it's Catherine Bigelow. We know she can deliver with a great movie. She did it with The Hurt Locker. And then the politics kicked in. And it was like, anti-torture, yada, yada. I'm just like, wait, hold your horses. First off, it's a movie.
Right.
You got to take that into effect. They're not making... If they did a perfectly realistic movie, it would be boring.
Right.
They have to take some liberties, and now whether or not they even took liberties, we don't know. That's kind of part of it.
Right. I mean, there were reports that were coming out from within the CIA saying basically Catherine Bigelow should not have knowledge to the things that she's having.
Exactly.
It's like, how does she know this? Like it was.
It's
it
like
was
inside
kind of a
journalism.
Big deal. It was a scandal.
Yeah, it's like inside journalism. Like, how do they get the inside scoop on things? And she's really good at it. So, Zero Dark 30, I feel like, would have been received better if the political hate had not been on it. And so that's kind of a bummer because I loved the movie, and I'm so upset that Jessica Chastain did not win Best Lead Actress. I'm still upset about that.
See, I'm not. I am not. And it's not anything against Jessica Chastain. I thought the exact same thing until I had seen Silver Linings Playbook.
Okay.
Silver Linings Playbook, she gave a challenging performance, and it was right inside the lines of what is simultaneously heartwarming and Oscar-winning. Because a lot of times you'll have someone give a great performance that, everybody back home loves, and people in Hollywood are like, meh. It was okay.
Right.
An uninspired performance, perhaps, but we will not falter for that.
Right.
But Jennifer Lawrence right now is the hot commodity in Hollywood.
Oh, without a doubt.
I mean, she's probably we're talking about Daniel Day-Lewis. She's a hotter actress than he is an actor, and he's won 3 Academy Awards for Best Lead Actor.
Like, anybody that can get her in their movie, it's like golden.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, look, and why not? She's had movies come out in November, December that have won Oscars. She's had movies come out in June, July that have made $1 billion. She can do the Oscar-winning movie or the summer blockbuster blowout that makes $1 billion.
Yeah.
And she can switch at the flip of a hat.
Yeah, there aren't many actors that can do that have that under their belt of Oscar-worthy performances and $1 billion performances.
Right.
And she's probably the only actress that can do that right now.
I would say that's right.
I can't think of another actress that is Oscar-worthy.
Maybe Natalie Portman.
Yeah, I guess she was in Thor, but she's hardly in it. She's not the lead in Thor.
Yeah, but I'm not even thinking Thor. I'm thinking like her way back in the Star Wars movies.
Yeah, but she was not the
episode
reason
1, 2, and 3. No,
money.
she wasn't, but she was in them.
That is true.
She was not as important to those movies as Jennifer Lawrence was to The Hunger Games.
Yeah, she single-handedly has carried movies to $1 billion.
Right.
One movie at least, Hunger Games. Okay, so Zero Dark 30 is at my number 3 spot. Love the movie. Feel like it got a little overlooked. Okay, last two. Number 2, I have the Best Picture winner, Argo.
Okay.
Originally, I was kind of upset that Argo won Best Picture. Like, I was like, I mean, it was good, but the more I think about it, it was a great movie.
Yeah.
And the only reason I put it above Zero Dark 30 and Lincoln is because maybe, this will sound kind of weird because this list is based strictly on quality, but there has to be an entertainment factor to that quality. And I feel like Argo captured the entertainment factor and the quality factor perfectly.
Right.
Whereas Zero Dark 30, there's a lot of people that saw it that were like, I was bored. And, you can have a great movie, but if people are bored, then it didn't reach as big of an audience, And so, obviously, they have totally different target audiences, but Argo captured everybody that saw the movie, liked it. I mean, that's a figure of speech. Obviously, not everybody, but the majority of people that saw Argo loved Argo. And quality-wise, I mean, it won Best Picture. You can't. There's very, very few movies that you can argue that when they win Best Picture are not good movies. It's a great movie. I feel like Ben Affleck. We could talk about Ben Affleck for a while. I feel like this really was like, okay, this guy's not just joking around. He came out with Gone Baby Gone, great movie. Came out with The Town, which I think was Oscar worthy.
Yeah.
And then he comes out with Argo, which is the best of the 3. That's 3 solid movies. Like, move over Christopher Nolan.
Right.
This guy's coming through. He's a better director in terms of Oscars than you are. It's kind of, I said it, it's the way it is. So Ben Affleck did a great job, and he did a great job of acting. Any other year, he might have been nominated. But because the people we had nominated this year, there's no way. But it was Oscar-worthy performance, I felt like, or Oscar nomination-worthy, as was his one in The Town. But he never ceases to impress. Argo was fantastic. If you have not watched it, go watch it. The one thing I did not like about Argo is that Alan Arkin got nominated for an Oscar. That guy was not the best part of the movie. How was he the only actor in the movie that got nominated? Like, I feel like his character was good, but it wasn't great by any means.
Well, I think that what happened with that was the Academy, they had a moment of ESP, and they said, Ben Affleck was great in this movie, but here in about 8 months or so, he's going to come out and be announced as the Batman in the upcoming movie, and he's going to screw over Hollywood and give us bad light, so he's not getting our nomination.
Right. And they're like, we're going to give it to the guy that hardly had any screen time. It was like, come on, Alan Arkin did not deserve that nomination. It might have been a pity nomination, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, not to say that he detracted from the movie.
No, he was very, very, very good, but he was not Oscar nomination worthy. So there's my 2 cents on that. Okay, can you guess what my number 1 is?
I think I might be able to, but for sake of viewer experience, let's just go ahead and hear it. I'll be surprised with the rest of them. Or at least
winner,
I'll act surprised.
And this is only after watching it for a second time.
Okay.
Silver Linings Playbook.
Okay.
I feel like Silver Linings Playbook, the first time I saw it, I was like, it was good. I watched it again. It is an excellent movie.
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness. Like, De Niro was so good. I think that Christoph Waltz, if he... Okay, here's my little spiel. I'm a little sidetracked here.
Okay.
Christoph Waltz should have been nominated for Best Lead Actor in Django. I feel like he was the lead. Even though technically Django's character, he's the name of the movie.
I disagree.
Christoph Waltz was in the movie more than any other actor.
He spoke
and he
more
spoke
than any actor.
Way more.
I don't think he got the same amount of screen time that Jamie Foxx did.
I definitely think he did.
We'll have to look at that.
It'll be close. But if Daniel Day-Lewis got the best or the lead actor nomination for Gangs of New York over DiCaprio,
well, yeah, I mean
then Christoph Waltz needs to get the lead actor nomination over. But if that's the case, okay, let me put this out. He doesn't win Best Supporting Actor, and De Niro wins Best Supporting Actor. But because Waltz had so many minutes on screen, it was hard not to give him the Oscar. And he did great. Don't get me wrong. I love his performance. But De Niro, man, that guy was so good. It's like old school Goodfellas, Raging Bull De Niro here.
Right.
Like, this is the De Niro.
In terms of quality, not the character he plays.
No. Well, not too much. No, yeah. Totally different. But quality of acting.
You don't want to watch the Eagles game with me? I'm gonna call up Joe Pesci, and he's gonna whoop some sense into you.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how he would say it, with a Northwest Arkansas accent.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm improvising a bit, but
I understand that. That's almost as bad as my Walken impression. So, Robert De Niro, that guy was so good in Silver Linings Playbook. I feel like he was the best part of the movie. But, with that being said, Bradley Cooper gave his best performance he's ever given. By a mile. Like, there's no other performance I've seen by Bradley Cooper that I would even put close to this one. And then you have Jennifer Lawrence. Now, I was kind of waiting to talk about Jennifer Lawrence until I brought this movie up.
okay.
I feel like Jennifer Lawrence did a fantastic job acting in the movie she did.
Right.
Like, she did her role excellently. I throw the word around perfect or flawless all the time. I'm not meaning that literally, because nobody gives a perfect or flawless performance. It's impossible. There's always some little thing wrong. But as good as she could have given, she gave that best performance.
Right.
But I feel like she was overshadowed by Bradley Cooper and De Niro. They were both on such another level, I feel like, that they are going to go down as... De Niro's performance, I think, is going to go down in 20 years as another... That's going to be one of those performances. You look back on De Niro's career and you're going to go, oh yeah, his role in Silver Linings Playbook.
Yeah.
I feel like you look back at Lawrence, you forget this role in 5 years. Like, I just don't feel like this is a role that when you look back at the best lead actresses that have won over the years, you're going to remember this role. You're going to look back and see Natalie Portman in Black Swan and be like, oh, yeah, definitely. And you're going to look back and see, Meryl Streep in one of her movies and be like, oh, yeah, definitely. But Lawrence for Silver Linings Playbook, I don't really see it. Now, I'm not upset that she won. I just really think that Jessica Chastain, because Chastain had to carry the whole movie by herself.
Right.
And she did that. She took a movie, and she had good supporting actors. I mean, Jason Clarke was a good actor, but she's literally on the screen for like 80% of the movie. And so I feel like what she went through and how she portrayed her character was more influential to the movie than what Lawrence did.
Okay.
But, I mean, that's hard to decide because the chemistry between Lawrence and Cooper is perfect. And she plays a quirky character, but, I mean, you can't really complain. She did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie Weaver, excellent as the mom. And so I think Silver Linings Playbook was the best movie last year. It's weird to say it like that. It wasn't my favorite movie last year, because Django, I think, would still be my favorite.
Right.
But in terms of quality, I think Silver Linings Playbook should have won Best Picture. It was more unique than Argo. It was just all around, I just felt like it was a superior movie. So that's what I have. Do you want me to mention the ones I've left off, or do you want to do your list first, and then I'll mention the ones I've left off at the end?
Let me do my list first, because I have a lot of movies on here that I have not heard you mention.
Okay. Well, we're going to go to a break first before Tyler gives us his list. You've been listening to The Cracked Nation on KOCC Eagle Broadcasting. We've been talking top 10 movies of 2012, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Welcome back to The Cracked Nation. I'm Caleb Henry, here with Tyler Robbins. We are going through a top 10 of 2012. This is Top 10 Wednesday. Every Wednesday from 8:30 to 10 o'clock, we're going to do a new top 10 list. We also have the show on Fridays from 12:30 to 1:30 in the afternoon. Kind of a different time. It's kind of what worked into our schedule, but if you want to tune in for an hour there, that will not be as structured of a day, I feel like. I feel like of all our days, that'll be the least structured. And then Sunday from 3 to 4, we also have a show. So be looking forward to those two. If you want to tweet in, feel free at TheCrazy and at @Cracked_Nation to tweet us questions. We'll read them on the air and stuff. I'm going to go through a quick recap of my top 10.
All right.
And then you can hit it with your top 10 through 6.
Let's do it.
At number 10, I had Moonrise Kingdom. 9, I had Sinister. 8, I had 7 Psychopaths. 7, I had Flight. 6, I had Life of Pi. 5, I had Django. 4, I had Lincoln. 3, I had Zero Dark 30. 2, I had Argo. And number 1, I had Silver Linings Playbook. Real quickly, a little bit of news. The director of Silver Linings Playbook, Russell, I believe his name, something Russell or something like that, I can't remember. His new movie called American Hustle comes out this year. Look forward to that. It's going to be great.
Okay.
Just thought I'd mention that. Okay, Tyler.
What about the brothers?
Oh, Coen Brothers. Just saw a tweet from my friend David Journey that the Coen Brothers are going digital, which is kind of a big deal because they're one of those people that have been filmed for a while.
Basically, them and Christopher Nolan are the last two really big entities within the filmmaking industry.
Yeah, there's a couple others, but I just can't, I don't know who they are right off the top of my head.
They're in the last handful of people in Hollywood.
Yeah, even Scorsese's like, yeah, go digital.
They've been holding on to physical film for a long time when most of the industry has gone digital.
Exactly. And with that being said, you need to watch the documentary Side by Side. It's a documentary that Keanu Reeves put on about digital and film and which directors do what, and it's excellent. Such a great documentary.
That might be the first thing Keanu Reeves has been good in since the last time that he was back with the Tchaikovsky brothers.
Yeah.
Or what's the Wachowski?
Wachowskis. They're not the brothers anymore, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, the siblings.
That's odd.
The siblings.
The siblings.
Yes.
Okay. Start us off, Tyler.
All right. Well,
start us off. Start the second half off. How's that?
Start the second half of the show off. I can do that. Before I do, in the interest of intellectual integrity and the fact that I just don't want people to be taking a dump on my list, these are the movies that have come out that I probably should have seen at some point, but I either didn't have the money to see them when they were in theaters, or they didn't come out in theaters in our area, or I just never got around to it for some reason or another. I was too busy. But these are the movies that I think could have had a chance to potentially be in my top 10 list, but I didn't get to see them, and so I don't know.
Okay.
And so there's one in here at least that I'm pretty sure would have been, and then several others that I think could have been. But I'm going off of the movies that I have seen with my own two eyes, not off of reputations and reviews. So, Argo, I have not seen.
Right.
And
about that.
It's frustrating to me because I really want to see it. It won Best Picture, for crying out loud. But, which I'm not...
It kind of says if you have to watch one movie of the year, that's the one you should watch.
Yeah, exactly. And Beasts of the Southern Wild.
I also have not seen that.
Amor, which is the foreign language film that came out that was nominated for Best Picture, it won Best Foreign Language Picture.
And I definitely feel like I would put that in my top 10.
Right, and I do too. I think it probably would be there. The Master.
Agreed. Same thing. Haven't seen it.
Moonrise Kingdom. Haven't seen.
Okay.
Perks of Being a Wallflower. I heard that movie was just absolutely fantastic. I never heard anyone that watched it that said, oh, it's okay.
I bet if you're a homeschooler, you didn't like it. Because it's like, and everybody that's seen it that knows me, because I was homeschooled, they're like, yeah, you probably won't like the movie. So I don't care to see it.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of curious now because I too was homeschooled, and I'm kind of curious to see why homeschooled people might not like it.
Right.
So I'm just one of those people. It's like, oh, you're probably not going to like that. Oh, well, let's pop it in and see.
Right.
So, Perks of Being a Wallflower, I have not seen. Cloud Atlas, which I've heard people say this movie was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I've heard people say don't waste your time with it.
That's exactly why I haven't seen it.
So it's
like 3 hours long.
It's extremely hit or miss in terms of the reviews. It's hard to find two people saying the same thing about it.
Yep.
But just the way that it was done and the idea behind the movie and the actors that are in the movie, I really want to see this movie. And I think it could have been in my top 10 potentially.
Okay.
And then Seven Psychopaths, I have not seen.
Okay.
And that was kind of one of those limited release in theaters type movies.
Right.
And then The Sessions, which was very limited in release.
Yeah.
And if you look into the plot, is very...
Scandalous?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it definitely, whatever rating they gave it, it probably deserved it.
I'm sure it did.
But I also heard incredible reviews. It was supposed to be a great movie. Got some nominations, didn't it? In the Academy.
Helen Hunt was nominated for Best Actress.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are the movies I think that came out last year that I could have potentially put in my top 10, but I haven't seen them, so they're not there. That being said, I'll go right into my list. And for my number 10 spot, Let the Sky Fall and Crumble.
And I thought Christopher Walken was bad. Your Adele impression is about as bad as it gets.
Oh my gosh. Well, at least I was getting her vibrato.
Okay.
So that I would explain to you what that means, but we're on a radio show, so.
Anyways.
Yeah, I won't bore our good listeners. Skyfall, Daniel Craig, the latest installment in the James Bond series that's been running since back in its current configuration, since back in the early 1960s with Sean Connery. And there were some movies even before that were done by the BBC and British companies. But
Right.
film series has been going on for the last 50-plus years. Mm-hmm. And it's not one of those movies that you watch it and you're like, my life has changed.
Right.
I just don't know what to do with myself anymore. I've seen this movie. I don't know how to live my life anymore.
Uh-huh.
It's not one of those. What it is you're going to watch it and you're going to say, this is a really, really great James Bond movie. And it holds right in there with any movie that has come in the past in the series that you care to list.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in terms of quality and in terms of watchability.
Right.
I mean, I've seen it probably 3 or 4 times, and it holds up.
I would definitely say I think Casino Royale is better.
Okay.
But I don't know if Oscar-wise if Casino Royale is better. But there were parts of Royale I really liked. But Skyfall, when you watch it, you're like, yeah, that's a really solid movie.
Right.
And you have like no complaints with it.
Right, and especially if you know any of the James Bond lore, they throw in a bunch of
lot of
references.
homage back to the others.
Yeah, so I love that too, because I have seen probably most of the James Bond movies. Not all, but most.
Right.
Okay, going on to number 9, Wreck-It Ralph.
Really?
An animated movie
Really?
in the
See,
list.
I thought about it. I was like, nah, it wasn't in my top 10 favorite, but I'm glad you put that there.
Yeah, see, I loved it, and I was just watching it, and I don't know, it's one of those things where I felt like they had an opportunity to give it a really, really cheesy, poorly done ending, and they didn't. They didn't take the easy way out on it. They gave it the more complex ending.
Right.
And sometimes animated movies, it's like they're trying to chew the food for you before you eat it. And I get why, if you're 2 years old, that would be necessary. But, adults watch these movies too. And I mean, I think that's the genius that Pixar hit on right around the turn of the millennium is, if you have put out a movie like Shrek that has stuff in it for not only the little kids but also for the adults, even going back further than that, Aladdin, with all the Robin Williams references.
Yeah.
I mean, these are movies that parents are going to take kids to, and so the kids are going to be watching them, so you can't be dropping F-bombs, but at the same time, there has to be something there that keeps the parents engrossed and keeps them interested.
That's why Toy Story was so good.
Yeah.
Like the original Pixar movie. Like, that's the reason Pixar took off.
Yes.
It was more of an adult movie than a kid's movie.
Well, I wouldn't say it's more of. I would say it's every bit of. I would say that it functions on the same, on different levels, but at the same level of quality, whether you are 5 or 50. You will walk into that movie and
leave just as happy as the other person.
Exactly.
Right. And I feel like they targeted their audience as almost instead of send your kids to the movie theater, take your kids to the movie theater.
Yes.
And that was the difference. It wasn't the old Disney movies. It was like, oh, we'll send, or even not necessarily Disney, but old animated movies.
Right.
It was kind of like, oh, well, or even now, there's still a bunch of them. Send your kid to the movie theater.
Right.
Instead of take them to the theater.
Right. And Wreck-It Ralph we talked about with Skyfall. It had a lot of the old James Bond homages to back in the Sean Connery, Roger Moore days. Wreck-It Ralph does that with video games.
Yeah.
And they go all the way back to like the Atari NES days with references.
Yep.
And some of them went over my head even, and I'm pretty well versed in video games.
Yeah, I didn't get half the jokes, but I'm okay with that.
But yeah, I mean there were a few that I didn't get. Most of them I got. And the ones that I got, most of them I thought that's a really intelligent, well-placed joke. And so for that, I give it props. And the fact that Brave beat it out in the Academy Awards for Best Animated Picture
made it even worse.
I felt like I had to have it on my list just to
spite Brave.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yep, I understand.
All right, number 8, a movie that I'm surprised you didn't have on your list on the lower end.
Okay. I
didn't expect you to have this number 1, but I thought that you would have it on the lower end. Dark Knight Rises, number 8.
You definitely haven't been here for as many conversations as Nemo has, but my friend Nehemiah, we have had this conversation probably 30 or 40 times. I mean, it's probably close to that number. The more I think about that movie, the more I dislike it.
Really?
And the worse it gets.
Really?
That movie has so many issues with it. I mean, we could do a whole show on The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah,
I don't really want to go into it.
I would love to have a talk with you about that where we could do it
I've almost
just with
come
spoilers.
Yeah.
Because there are some things in that movie that some people look at and say that's a mistake, it's poorly written.
Mm-hmm.
I look at that same thing and say it's a metaphor, and it's something that Nolan is doing that is greater than, just having a realistic cause to effect sequence in your movie.
Yeah, so the reason I didn't have it on there is, like, I almost have come to the point where I don't like the movie.
Wow.
It's hard for me to say because it's a Nolan movie, and there are things I love about it, but there are some big issues I have with that movie.
Well, yeah,
which is why it's not
a perfect movie. It's not nearly as good. I said on air back in the springtime that I thought it was better, and I was probably the one in a million that thought this, but I said I think it's better than The Dark Knight. I would probably renounce that at this point. Having upon further review, since it's football season. That being said, I still think it was a great movie, and it came out again in the summer, in a very strong summer, held its own. Not as good as a movie that's coming up on my list,
right?
In terms of summer superhero movies,
right? And really quickly, last thing on that, I feel like on my list of favorites, it would be higher than it would be on my quality. Dark Knight Rises, even though it wouldn't be really high on either. It was last year. Like I think my top 10 last year, I think it was in my top 10.
Quality
favorite
or favorites?
Movie.
Okay.
But there's no way it's in my top 10 favorite now. Not even close. But we'll talk about that some other time.
Well, it was a tough cut last year, and
it was.
I would love to talk about that with you off air.
Mm-hmm,
but
for sure.
That discussion for another time. Number 7, and this is going to shock you.
Okay.
Django Unchained.
Oh wow, that is really low.
Yep.
Wow.
And again, we talked about this for probably 15 minutes earlier, so I'm not going to talk about it for very long. If you were listening to the show earlier, we talked about, is a very, very well done movie. If I'm doing my favorites, then it's much higher on the list, because the number 1 movie on my list, I did not enjoy watching all that much.
Right.
But it was absolutely, you said that nobody gives a perfect performance. I disagree.
Okay.
And my number 1 movie, I feel like there was a perfect performance in that movie.
Okay.
There was someone in that movie, one of the lead roles, that absolutely played the screenplay to the point where it was just like, you can't do it better than that.
Right. They really filmed him in real life.
Exactly. And so we'll get to that point. But I did not enjoy watching for most of the number 1 movie on my list. But we're doing quality. We're doing the best movies, not favorites.
Definitely.
Again, and we've stressed this on the air I don't know how many dozen times, but there is a huge difference in that. If we're doing favorites, then my list looks completely different. But Django Unchained at number 7.
That's surprising.
And that's probably one of the biggest surprises on my
last
list.
year you would have had it at number 2 or 3. If we would have done this around Oscar time. Around Oscar time.
Having the benefit of going back and watching it again where it's not in theaters and where you know the plot and you can kind of analyze it more, really makes a difference in that movie for me. Number 6, Avengers.
Really? You put Avengers above Django?
I do, and here's the reason why.
Okay, spit it.
Avengers was not meant to be this great all-time movie that you watch 50 years from now and that they're going to teach you in film school, okay, this is how it's done, ladies and gentlemen. It's not meant to be that type of movie. It was meant to be an enormously fun, well-acted, well-written movie that kept you entertained. And it did that better than any movie I've ever seen for a summer movie. I will say straight up, it's the best summer movie I've ever seen in theaters.
Wow.
I'm not saying that there haven't been better in my lifetime,
right.
But in terms of the movies, when I go out to the theater and watch it, and I'm sitting there with friends or just by myself even sometimes, I want to be entertained. It's summertime.
It did not lack in entertainment, that is for sure.
And I thought that movie was going to be a train wreck. It had all of the earmarks on it of being
a director that hadn't proven himself yet. Like, Joss Whedon had not proven himself as a director.
Not in movies.
He had done a few TV shows, and even those got axed. It has a cult following, but in terms of success of his TV shows,
right,
they weren't that well received.
Right, at the time.
It's
like people go back later and say, "Oh, it was brilliant."
Right.
But yeah, in film, Joss Whedon had not really been.
He had done stuff, but it wasn't by any means on the level of the Avengers.
Right. Brilliant choice for this type of movie. And the main reason I thought this movie was going to suck, I thought it was going to be awful, was I looked at the script, or I looked at the cast, rather, and I thought, there are 5 lead actors here.
Yeah.
If you count Samuel L. Jackson, 6. This is going to be a train wreck because everyone's going to be trying to upstage one another, and no one's going to be able to accept their roles. Maybe you're used to being the lead character, but in this one, you're third lead character.
Right.
Actors have a hard time with that, generally speaking, because it's kind of an ego involved in getting up in front of a camera for your living. So I thought that it was going to be a matter of too many cooks ruin the soup.
Right.
And
right.
I really was concerned about that. When I watched that movie, I came out thinking that could be, that I didn't think at the time best movie of the year or best movie of the summer even.
Right.
What I thought was, because this was before Dark Knight Rises had come out, I thought that is going to be really, really hard for Dark Knight Rises to beat. Because at the time, right up to that, all of the hype, or most of it, had been around how is Christopher Nolan going to follow up his masterpiece, The Dark Knight.
Right.
And he followed it up in a way that I thought was very satisfying. You disagree with me?
Well,
but
initially
it
was definitely satisfying initially.
Yeah. But anyway, I love The Avengers. For what it was supposed to do, it did it impeccably.
Yeah, and a little note on Joss Whedon. The only full-length movie he had directed before that was Serenity, which is his, Firefly ending movie. That's it. He hadn't directed a single movie to that point until he did The Avengers. That is a lot of faith in a director with a cast and a reputation. The movie had to be good. If the movie wasn't great, Marvel tanks.
Right.
But the movie ended up being their best one. Arguably their best one. And in terms of, best summer movie, I think it's my second favorite summer movie. My favorite was The Dark Knight. That was my favorite theater experience I've ever had.
Okay.
But other than The Dark Knight, dude, I had so much fun at The Avengers.
Now, see,
it was a blast.
Yeah, a great movie. So I put it number 6.
Okay.
What do you want to? Do you want to take a short break?
Yeah, we're gonna take a short break, and then we'll be back in about a couple minutes, and we'll get back to what we were talking about. Your 5 through 1.
Yep.
You've been listening to The Cracked Nation on KOCC Eagle Broadcasting. Stay tuned, and we'll be back. And we've been talking top 10 movies of 2012. If you want to tweet in, feel free at TheCrazy and at Cracked_Nation. We love to get tweets and read them on the air if they are appropriate to read on the air. We've had some that I definitely have not read on the air. So Tyler, read us through your 10 through 6 real quick again.
All right. Number 10 was Skyfall. You got to hear my Adele impersonation. Number 9 was Wreck-It Ralph. Number 8, Dark Knight Rises. Number 7, Django Unchained. And number 6, The Avengers.
Okay, now let's hear your number 5.
All right. Let's get right into it, shall we? Number 5, a movie that you had on your top 10 list. Probably about the same place. I can't remember exactly, but it was very close. Flight.
I had Flight at number 7.
Okay.
So,
and you had, or I had Django at number 7, and you had it at number 5.
So they switched.
So we flipped them.
Okay.
And it pains me to put Flight at number 5 because I love that movie.
Me too.
I felt like I was the biggest proponent for that movie because there were a lot of people saying, I haven't seen it. It doesn't sound all that good. I was like, no, you have to see this movie. That was how I was with Caleb.
Yeah, that's the reason I saw it, is because you convinced me to.
Right. And I don't know, Jeremy Johns, one of the biggest YouTube reviewers, never reviewed it. And that still frustrates me. It's like, why would you not review?
I don't think he would have liked it.
You don't think he would have?
I really don't. I think he would have been like, was a good movie, but just personal opinion. And nobody here knows who Jeremy Johns is, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. If you've been listening long enough, then you probably have heard his name come up in conversation, because we reference him frequently. Okay. Number 4, a movie that you talked about. If anything, the surprise here is that it's not a little bit higher, but got great movies this last year. Lincoln.
Lincoln, that's what I got. Number 4, Lincoln.
Okay.
Good call.
Yeah.
And see, so, boy, that's going to be hard to... What do you have at your number 1?
Oh, you'll see.
Oh, my word. Because you were talking about, a flawless performance, and so I'm like, oh, well, that has to be, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Okay. No, you'll see.
Oh, I will. I just really, really hope it's not the movie that I'm thinking it might be. We'll see in a minute.
Okay, well, we'll see. If you are
I have a feeling
disappointed,
it is. I'm going to be so mad.
if you are disappointed, then you can gripe at me after we get off air.
Okay.
Just smile and wave.
What was your favorite part of Lincoln? I mean, we talked about Daniel Day-Lewis, obviously, but
what was my favorite part of Lincoln?
Why did you put it at number 4 instead of Flight? Because you loved Flight.
I would say, well, I mean, we're doing quality, and I thought that Lincoln was better quality than Flight. It's just the hard, cold facts.
And I agree.
In terms of watchability, I would take Flight over Lincoln. But if we're doing quality, I think that Lincoln gets the nod. Favorite part of it? The scene... okay, spoiler alert for the next 20 seconds. This isn't a big spoiler, but when he is down in the cellar, and he is doing the cellar of the White House, and he's doing the Morse code, trying to get updates on the war, on the battlefield, and he's basically choosing to let the war go on for the sake of getting the bill passed that's going to allow for the freedom of the slaves. And that's got to be one of the hardest decisions that Lincoln in real life had to ever make. So that was probably my favorite scene.
Okay.
Just the intensity of it, the way that it was... there was not very much said.
No.
But when he was down there and he was talking with the operator, it's just the dialogue. I mean, you felt like you were in the cellar listening. So, that was longer than 20 seconds. I hope I didn't just spoil that for somebody. I thought I could get it knocked out quicker, but I couldn't. So I'm sorry. Let's see.
Number 3?
My number 3 movie is coming up on Word document. Silver Linings Playbook.
Okay.
Number 3.
Yep.
And I really, really liked that movie. I saw it before you did, and I was the one that told you, dude, gotta see this movie. I mean, I feel like that's a theme we're developing with Flight and Silver Linings Playbook.
Yeah.
Of course, there are a lot of movies that you've seen that I haven't, so it works. I mean, we're college students. OC doesn't pay us to go see movies yet.
Hint.
But yeah, Silver Linings Playbook. So many great performances in that movie. Cooper, Lawrence, De Niro. There's so many great performances in that movie. I do mean the word great.
Right.
I mean, there are so many performances in that movie that you know, when these actors are long dead and gone, this is going to be one of the things that comes up on YouTube or whatever they're using to watch videos now when they look up this actor's career.
Right.
It's like they'll have clips for these actors and actresses from Silver Linings Playbook.
And all 4 could have won the Oscar. Like, all 4 actors were nominated.
Yep.
Lead actor, lead actress, supporting, and supporting.
Right.
All 4 were good enough to win all of them.
And that's probably the reason I went out to see the movie in the first place, just because it had been a long time since that had happened in a movie. But I walked away from it thinking, the acting was great, but the overall movie was great.
Yeah.
Extremely well written, compelling plot. A little bit cheesy the way that it ends, but it was a satisfying kind of cheesy.
It was.
It was like the fromage du français. It wasn't American cheese.
What did you just say?
It's okay, Caleb. It's
okay.
I was homeschooled. It's my vocabulary coming in.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, number 3, Silver Linings Playbook.
Okay.
Number 2, and this is a movie that you didn't have on your list, so I've been excited to whip this one out. Looper.
Oh my, that high?
Number 2.
Wow. I don't know what to say. I did not expect that.
I thought that it was one of the best movies of the year. Hands down. I'm really surprised it didn't get a lot more Oscar love than it did. I mean, in one sense, I understand why, because it wasn't really that type of movie per se. But then again, it was. It was the kind of movie that really kind of bridges the gap between July and November.
Yeah, I will say it definitely bridges the gap, but I'm totally going to disagree with you in saying that it's better than Lincoln or Django or...
You wouldn't say it's better than Django?
Oh, not even close.
Oh my gosh, watch it again, dude. How many times have you seen it?
I've seen it twice.
Wow.
Once in theaters and then once at somebody's house.
Okay.
It was a great movie, don't get me wrong. But actually, I haven't actually written anything down of like the issues I have. Usually when I watch a movie for the third time or whatever, I start like taking mental notes of problems. I'll need to do that before I really rip in it too bad. But and I loved the movie.
You're not going to find that much.
I mean, it was right on my border of making my top 10. But it definitely would not
So you
have beat
didn't
out
forget
Lincoln.
about it.
It definitely wouldn't have beat Lincoln or Silver Linings, without a doubt.
Okay.
But I mean, it's your call. It's your list.
Yeah, and I just thought, it brought a level of originality in addition to the acting, which I thought was fantastic.
Right.
The acting in it, extremely well done. A lot of
Dude, he is totally young Bruce Willis. Like, that guy killed it.
Exactly. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, JGL, comes in and delivers what I think is, to this point in his career, probably his best performance. I would say it's better than in Inception.
Oh, I would totally say it's better.
And you got Bruce Willis, who it was Bruce Willis. He comes in and wrecks stuff and shoots stuff.
Yeah, and throws a couple cuss words in there. I mean, what else do you want?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
yippee-ki-yay.
I love how we both thought exactly the same thing.
There's one word that describes Bruce Willis. It's yippee-ki-yay.
Well, there are really two words, but
Bald?
only one of them that we can say. Yes, exactly. Bald. That's exactly what I was thinking of. That's the 4-letter word. But Looper, incredible storyline, plot, shooting of it, the acting, the thing that sold it for me. And we're going overall movies here. This isn't just based on the acting. The thing that sold it for me was how original the plot had been. We've seen time travel movies before, but we've never seen a movie that handles it like this. I feel like if we ever get to a point as a human race where we develop time travel, it's gonna work sort of like in this movie. Like, just watching it, it's like, that seems legit.
It does. It makes a lot more sense. And when you start thinking about it, the guy says in the movie, "Don't think about it. Your brain will fry."
Yeah.
Like, time travel, because it's not possible, you can't comprehend it because it's not possible.
Right.
And so, but they do as good of a job as you can do. It was like the Back to the Future of our generation in terms of what they did with the time travel.
Right.
Not in terms of what that movie was at all. Totally different. But
right.
in terms of the time travel, I felt like it covered enough that you don't have questions about the time travel.
Right, and that's really the trick. I mean, if you are a nuclear physicist at MIT, maybe you walk out saying, I've got some issues with that movie. The average John Q. moviegoer is not going to walk out of it and say, I hated that movie. It did not do time travel justice.
Right, you'll have a couple of kids that think they know what they're talking about because they play a lot of video games.
I love those
conversations. Time travel's not possible, it just kind of, it trumps everything. Like,
right.
They did as good as they could have, I felt like.
Yet. You ever have one of those moments where you're just thinking, man, I really wish I had hot wings? And then you turn around and there's a plate of hot wings? I haven't had that happen yet, but I really am hoping that future Tyler is going to hook me up.
Okay.
A la How I Met Your Mother. There's an episode where that happens.
Okay.
All right,
I'm upset. I know what your number one is going to be. I can't believe you're going to say it.
Really? Okay. I told you, I didn't enjoy this movie that much, but I think quality-wise it must be done. It must be set.
Why?
Zero Dark 30.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else.
What did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to say Les Mis. Les Miserables.
No.
Because you had mentioned you...
Oh, no.
You forgot it.
Oh, no. That was on my list, and then I was editing it, and it must have gotten bumped off. I felt like I was forgetting.
Where would you put it before we get to Zero Dark 30?
Okay,
Unless you put it above it.
Okay, before we get there, let's see. It goes above Skyfall, so Skyfall gets bumped. Wreck-It Ralph goes back from 9 to 10. Dark Knight Rises goes back from 8 to 9. Django goes back from 7 to 8. I would probably put it at number 7 between Django and the Avengers.
Okay. I mean, I could see that.
Okay.
I definitely didn't put it on my list. I didn't even put it in my top 15.
Okay. And truthfully, it's really, really, really hard for me to talk about that movie in an unbiased fashion because it's a great movie. I mean, I own it.
Right.
And I love the movie, but it is an exercise in self-control to sit through that movie because it's 2.5 hours long and it is literally 99% singing.
Yep.
And
there's 3
maybe
words in the whole movie, I think, that are talked. Or spoken. Talked.
Is that what it is?
Word?
Talked?
That were spoken. Yeah.
Yes, I be home teached.
Yeah, I was home teached.
So, yeah. No, I was editing my list right before we went on air to one last going over, and I apparently bumped that off accidentally. Okay. Yeah, that was supposed to, bump Skyfall off and then move everything up
down
to Django back.
Okay, that makes sense. I can see that because I was worried you were gonna put Les Mis at number 1, and I was like, dude, there's no way. So then you mentioned that there was an
However, no. Before you say that, we've got a few minutes.
Yeah,
I think that putting it at number 1 would be justified.
I don't think so.
I think that it could be construed as the number 1 movie in terms of quality. I don't see it, but I think that it could definitely be there.
You could have an argument that is definitely true.
Right.
But
So-
I think your argument would be shot down pretty quickly by about every single critic that saw the movie.
It's possible.
Because I don't think there was a single critic that said it was the best movie of the year.
It's possible. I think there were a few, but the majority, you're right. And I definitely think that it is, in most years, it would be the top movie.
It would be it would be top couple at least.
Right. And it shocks me even looking at the list now that it's back in proper order, seeing it at number 7.
Right.
I might put it above the Avengers. That's really like right where you start running into hard boundaries for me. Because, I mean, I think that it did exactly what it's supposed to do for a musical. The Avengers did exactly what it's supposed to do for a summer movie.
Right. Well,
So-
I just felt like Les Mis had so much more potential. Like, going into the movie, I had heard great things before any reviews came out. Like, the people that had seen, like, clips of it and stuff were like, this is excellent. And the way it was,
Right.
filmed with them singing live, everything.
And I think that it was.
And I feel like it could have been better without 99% singing.
It could have been.
And
but
so I can't put that movie that high when it could have obviously been better.
Right.
That's my
I
issue.
think that it could have been, but the thing about it is, they were trying to stay faithful to the musical.
Right.
Because the musical, it was a book first by Victor Hugo, and then it was released in musical form, and the musical form is a sung-through musical. It goes all the way through. There are, however many spoken words there are in the movie,
Yeah.
that's how many there are in the musical.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were remaining faithful to the concept of it
Right.
being a sung-through musical,
And-
they did it flawlessly.
Agreed.
And people that talk about it being boring, they can't control that without cutting out significant parts of the book.
Right.
So really, none of that I fault them for. It's like they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. It's just not that entertaining of a movie.
Right.
But it's one of those things. It's like broccoli. You don't eat broccoli because it tastes great. You eat broccoli because it's good for you. And watching Les Mis is good for you. It is good for your soul.
Quote of the day.
Les Miserables is cinematic broccoli.
Okay. Let's get back to 0
All right.